Okay, here we go. It's 6:30 on Monday, October 2nd. We're starting our meeting. We'll do a quick roll call. Kay Peterson, Chair.
Stephen Prescall, member.
And let's just be sure we know why everyone else is here so that we can adjust the agenda as needed so people don't have to wait too long.
I can tell you, Tom and Commander Fitzpatrick are on for the Legion. I'm not sure about Mr. Marcus.
Mr. Marcus, which item on the agenda are you here for?
I'm interested in the Legion as well.
Oh, okay. All right. So shall we, let's just do our little bitty administrative work first, and then we'll get to the Legion. We'll take citizen comments during this meeting whenever citizens are here to comment and would like to. Our next meeting will be November 6th. And what I would say was we should wait to do our minutes approval till after we've talked about the Legion. So Jason, do you want to lead the discussion about the Legion?
Yeah, sure. I'll just give a real quick summary just so everyone here knows where we're at. So the Legion about a month or so ago submitted a food establishment plan review application because they're interested in turning into a takeout food type operation. So at our last meeting, they were not in attendance, but the board discussed giving them certain conditions of things they had to do before, we move forward on that actual project. The three items of which were getting a Title V inspection for their septic, installing a grease trap if they were going to be utilizing a fryer, and the last item being having an engineer calculate the design flow of the system so we could actually figure out what their seating capacity could be, and just figure out the total flow going into the system and that type of thing. So that's kind of where we're at. And also secondary item, the Legion's been doing a temporary food operation where they've been serving lunch, grilling outside more or less. So they're kind of on a 2-week cycle at this point where they apply for the temporary food. Once the 2 weeks comes and goes, they reapply for a new license. So that's kind of where we're at with that. And that's kind of just a way to bridge the gap until they can move forward with this permanent indoor food operation. So that's kind of where we're at as of today.
So does anyone have any questions about that or comments about Jason's summary? Makes sense? That's your understanding as well?
Yeah, the folks at the Legion, that was my description, I think, was fairly accurate, correct?
Yes.
And how long do we think they'll be needing to get recurrent temporary permits? How far into the future do you think this will be?
I mean, that's up to them. We never really said it. Go ahead.
I apologize. Rich Fitzpatrick, commander of the Dover Legion. I was just wondering, we're talking about the permits. My question is the Dover has already had a food permit prior to this, where we have the permit to serve food. The difference that our original plans is why we applied for a second one. Since then, we've been told by the building department that won't work because of zoning. So we're just resorting back to our own food permit that we already have. So that was a question. I know we're talking about temporary permits, but we already have a food permit granted to us for several years now. So we just want
You've lost your audio. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Mr. Fitzpatrick, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now, ma'am?
Yes, yes. The
Uh,
last thing you were saying was,
okay.
you-
That was it.
no, you're gone again. Can't hear you.
Yeah, so just if I can just step in quick, just to give clarification, Commander Fitzpatrick is correct. The Legion does hold an annual food permit, but it's kind of on the smallest scale it possibly can be. It's a retail food permit that doesn't really allow them to do a whole lot. It certainly doesn't cover them to run a grilling and food service business. It really doesn't cover them for a whole lot. It's more or less just prepackaged items and the occasional one-off, events type of stuff that they typically do in their catered functions and things of that nature. So that's kind of the application they submitted a month ago is basically, it would be a revision to that existing permit. It's going to turn them into an actual food service establishment.
Is that your understanding too, Commander?
No, I was under the understanding that the food permit, if there was any restrictions, would have stated on the application on the license itself, regardless of what we serve, because we do occasionally we'll do the the cookouts or we'll serve pizza or things like that. So it was my impression that the American Legion has a food permit which covers everything. Now, the reason why a second permit was applied for was because we were going to have, and Tom can address to it more, we're going to have them serve the need of the community by opening up a takeout food establishment. And they were going to try to be like separate for the permit and to it. But since then, since we've learned that that cannot be because of zoning, and that it goes back to the Legion, there's no exceptions like where it says it on the food permit that we're limited to that stuff. The we have the common vic license, we have all the necessary license. So this is just where I was just not sure of why we had to go.
Were people able to hear him adequately?
No.
Commander Fitzpatrick, do you have another way? Do you know what the problem is? You kind of cut in and out. Do you have any idea how to fix it?
Excuse me, the phone call that I had received, I'm still on. If anyone can hear me.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
I can hear
can.
you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Is Tom McGill. He's unable to, although he was signed in, he's unable to get on. So I told him to sign out and sign back in. Maybe that would work. So if you have to admit someone, please readmit him.
It's not set up for that we have to admit people.
Okay.
So he should just be able to come in.
Okay. Tom? Yeah. They say you can come right in. You don't have to get readmitted. So do you still have the link? Do you want me to email you the link? Okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
So just clarify,
Well, we're waiting for Tom. I'm sorry. I was just wondering, I'm in California, so I apologize. I'm located closer to the limit.
Here comes Tom McGill.
Tom, are you on?
Yeah, he looks like he's muted though if he's trying to talk.
Yep, I'm here. Thank you.
So, just to catch you up, Mr. McGill, Commander Fitzpatrick was talking, but he's got some problems with his connection and we couldn't really make out what he was saying very well. So, I don't know whether, I mean, who's going to speak for the Legion at the meeting right now? What do you think? Who that should be?
Well, I am the steward. Rich is the commander. Either one of us or both of us can.
Well, we can hear you much better than we can hear Rich, Tom, so.
Okay.
I think it'd be, maybe, should we just start over again and, cause did you miss Jason's summary?
I did. Unfortunately, I couldn't get on. I could see all the names, but I couldn't get on.
Okay, so why don't we just start over? Is that okay with you,
Okay,
Jason?
okay.
Well, I mean, I've been in communication pretty much with Tom since the beginning, so I think he kind of knows, where we're at as of today in this whole process.
Well,
Colonel Commander was saying that the Legion, by virtue of its previously held permit, have to go through anything further in the way of getting an additional permit, and that they could operate as a full service operation without an additional permit. And it's the position of the board, as I understand it, that that's not the case, that they have to be permitted as a full service operation.
Yeah, listen, I wish it was that easy, but they hold the same type of license that the mobile station holds. So basically gives them the ability to serve potato chips and soda. But we allow the one-off functions and whatnot, like I mentioned, just because our board has always allowed that. So I simply came in and just continued to honor that. So they can do food service. They just need to apply for the revision, which they've done.
Okay, so let me get this straight. So just to circle back, we applied in 2020, late 20, I believe, after COVID. And so I didn't know there was different degrees of a food permit like that. So, I mean, we actually applied because to opt to open, we needed to have a license to serve food, and it didn't qualify to sell potato chips and peanuts. We actually had to have food, hot dogs, hamburgers, whatever. So that was our understanding, and we've exercised that permit since we got it. We were replacing all of our equipment in the kitchen, and COVID reared its ugly head. So for obvious reasons, we came to a stop. Now that we're back rolling again, we have ordered all the equipment for the kitchen. It's not a full service table service restaurant. It's a kitchen. We're offering grab and go. And if folks want to sit on our patio, which Jason, you've been down, I don't know if anybody else has, they're welcome to sit at a picnic table or a cafe table. And so basically, 50% is what we have people grab and go, landscapers, and some of our older members come down and take advantage of the nice weather. Everything's on disposable items, plastic forks, knives. And so you're telling me, am I to understand that we need to get a different permit for that?
Can I ask a question? It's grab and go of food that's prepared where?
Here.
At the Legion.
Yes, we have a menu of probably 10 or 12 items on it. BLTs, chicken salad, burgers, garden salad. We add, and we have specials and whatnot. We do. What else? We change it up. Meatball sandwiches and what have you. We pulled pork sandwiches.
So that's not the kind of license you've had for doing that on a regular basis. my.
Yeah, I
staff-
mean,
Okay.
I can't speak to anything before, as you guys know, the end of 2022. So, I don't know, Steve, I know you've been around the longest with this group. To your recollection, what has the Dover done as far as food license, do you know?
They weren't thought to be serving food that was prepared on the premises on a regular basis.
Okay, well, that was not our understanding. Basically, your group had reached out to us, and in order for us to open, we needed to serve food, and so that's what we did. I mean, we had peanuts and popcorn and Cracker Jacks and all that, but that didn't qualify us as a I wouldn't say restaurant, but a food service. So we'll get over that. So if we apply for that license, how do we go about that?
So this is why you're doing pretty well, but you just have to conform to the existing bylaws and regulations of a full food service establishment.
Okay, well, that's fine. And so we can get a list of that through Jason. I'm sure he's been very helpful. So hold on just 1 second here. So what type of bylaws? We've been like, we're all food certified. We're
I don't
allergen.
think there's anything that's out there that you haven't been already asked to do.
Okay.
Well,
Jason can comment on that.
Yeah, Jason,
Yeah, no, there's nothing stopping you guys from doing all this. I think at this point, you just need to, the conditions that the board outlined last meeting, you just need to address, and then we can move forward from there.
but that includes addressing the issues of the septic system that you talked about earlier in this
Yeah,
meeting.
that's what I'm referring to.
Well, I mean, issues with the septic system, we don't have any issues with the septic system. We
Yeah, so no problem, then get a Title V and prove it to us.
I mean, if we're not having a problem with the septic system, then why would we have to do that? We have it pumped annually, and Don Scott does an inspection, a visual inspection. We do that to be proactive so that we don't run into a problem. So I don't know. I mean, is that just something that you're holding our feet to the fire on, or is that something that is a normal thing? I know this is all new in Dover. We don't have a lot of new food establishments coming in.
Well, we don't have a lot of new food establishments coming in, but our requirements for them are consistent so that, and they include making sure that the septic system is adequate for the use that the food service is making of it. So,
Okay, so that would be like just water consumption and whatnot. I mean, we use less than 30 gallons per day
well,
goes into our septic.
Jason, do you want to talk about the details of the septic? I mean, the Title V, the calculation that we would make, or that an engineer would make.
Yeah, I mean, I can show you the plan on record we have for the Legion if you'd like.
Are you addressing me or?
Oh, no, sorry, I'm talking to Kay.
Yeah, you want to, can you put it up now? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, let me see if I can share my screen.
That would be great.
Can everyone see this? What I have on the screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
This sketch that you see here is the extent of what I know about the Legion septic system. From 1986, no design flow information, no nothing. I know it has a tank, a distribution box, and 2 leach pits. That's pretty much it. Tom's correct. It's been pumped pretty regularly over the years. Never had a formal system inspection. It's just looking at this. I don't know how you can just say, all right, should be good to go to open a food establishment. We also don't know what they can do in terms of seating. There's no information to go off of.
Okay, so,
Also, no grease trap.
well, the grease trap, you and I, and so I think it's excessive to ask to put an external of that size. We researched that to nauseum, and we had found a 50-pound grease trap that has a flow rate of 25.5 gallons per minute, which is pretty good. It's a 98% efficient, and in a lot of cases, you didn't have it on your website, but I did visit a lot of other towns, and it's not a requirement for an external grease trap. They do if it's over 100 seating capacity, and even with that case, if it is a financial hardship or it's a it's a matter of space restriction, then they will allow an internal grease trap, which in my humble opinion would probably be better because it's more accessible. It's cleaned once a month. The report gets sent to the local board of health so that they know what's going on with it. We're also a nonprofit, so money does come into play here. We've been holding on and doing well here because we're frugal, and we just don't, honestly, that's just an added expense. To put in external grease traps, $25,000, and it's, once again, in my humble opinion, I've done had a lot of conversations with engineers and septic folks that would be more than ample for our use.
We can get a contract. We can
Have
also
any
get a
thoughts on that?
contract. I just want to say something quick. We can get a contract. My name's Sarah. I'm
Sarah
partners-
Perdoni,
partners.
Monroe Perdoni.
Yeah, partners with Tommy here. We can get a contract. I have a restaurant in Wellesley, and I have a contract with a company that comes. They take the oil. We dump our fry oil in a baker's commodity. They come and take it. And then I also have another company that comes, Wayne's Drains. They come once a month, and they come and suck the grease trap out of my sink. The town of Wellesley never asked me about it. They don't talk to me about it, but I do it anyways. If that's something that would help ease your mind, we can do that too. We can just get a contract with them, and they come once a month. They pump the thing. Or you guys can come every 2 or 3 months and check it yourself. It's up.
Yeah. So the whole matter with the grease is we are serving 20 to 30 folks per day, half of which eat here. We do exactly one load. We've been doing this for 4 or 5 weeks now. We do exactly one load of utensils and whatnot per day in the dishwasher, which is 6 gallons. It's not a lot of water use, and the misnomer, with all due respect to you, if you haven't worked in the kitchen, a Fryolator never has any contact with the sink or water.
Nope.
It has zero. It adds zero to it. The only thing you're going to get is maybe washing a utensils with mayonnaise on them. And if you grew up in a town with septic, you learned at a very young age what you can and cannot do with a septic system. And so I've been in town for 60 years, and I listened to my father when I was 10 years old, what I could and couldn't do. So what are your thoughts on that?
Jason, what are you thinking?
Well, I think it's the one condition item where you could certainly make a case not to have one. If their whole thing is gonna be, all disposable items, just minimal grease, I'd really prefer to see like a commercial, air fryer type unit or something for the French fries. But I think with a grease interceptor, I don't know. You could certainly make a case for it. I'm not saying you couldn't.
Yeah, it's an fryer. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I just, for the board, because obviously I knew this was going to come up, the piece from Title V on grease traps. Grease traps shall be provided for kitchen flows at restaurants, nursing homes, schools, hospitals, and other facilities from which grease can be expected to be discharged.
Well, it's not being discharged.
You have a grease trap. You have a grease trap.
But it's going in a bin. It's going into a.
No, 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 we're talking
What do you mean?
about just the residual stuff, because
Oh, yeah.
once again, the fryer has zero effect on your septic, zero. Basically, it is an intimidating piece of equipment. It's 40 pounds of grease, but they do not interact. You cook the food from 2 to 7 minutes. It comes out, goes on a porous tray, and it drains
You just froze.
into the tray.
Tom,
Paper plate that also acts. Yeah. So then it's plated, and then those items are thrown away. The grease, the tub itself is drained every 3 to 4 weeks, depending on use. It goes back into the receptacle that we have a company that comes and picks it up. And then you don't wash the tub out. Basically, it's wiped down with paper towels. Those are disposed of. If indeed you need to clean it and you're cooking different things, we're cooking French fries and fried chicken, you'll wipe it out. If you need to do a cleaning, you'll spray it down with warm water with some white vinegar. It is then wiped out again. Those are disposed of. Nothing goes into the sink. When it comes to the baskets, there is very little on those. We do the same process. They are dried. If they need to be cleaned, they will be sprayed with a solution. They will be wiped down and they will be disposed of. There is literally zero grease from that. There is grease from other items. You're cooking hamburgers or on a spatula. We wipe all the stuff down, all the residual stuff on our little Cambros that have tuna fish and whatnot and mayonnaise. They're wiped first and then they're put into our dishwasher. Once again, we're fastidious about that.
so we have 3 issues really. One is the septic, the Title V inspection, the grease trap, and the third is what is the third one? Remind me. Related to
The design flow?
the design of the system, the design calculation.
And just real quick, just for the record for the group, the Dover Deli and the Dover Market both have external grease traps. They were, required to do so at the time of opening.
Mhm.
And Dunkin' Donuts also.
Actually, they don't.
Because they don't do frying on site. Their
Yes,
stuff is
but-
all brought in.
That was a point of contention when they were opening, excuse me. And actually, Paul, who's on the call, was a part of that process during the opening, so he probably knows a little bit about that.
Okay, so I understand the grease trap thing. We should be over like that. We are absolutely willing and all for putting in a grease trap. The question is, do we need a 1,000-gallon grease trap, or can we use you can buy a 10-pound grease trap, or you can buy a 20, 30, 40, 50. We would be willing to put in a 50-pound grease trap that has a flow rate of 20. The flow rate per minute is more than we use per day. So I'm asking, I don't see why there should be any pushback on that. On the Title V, we can discuss it. I don't understand because we have no issues with it. We've been operating since 1986. You can see that we're proactive on having that checked. If it's working and it's functioning and we're not adding any additional water to our system, I don't know why that would be a sticking point. Once again, it's a nonprofit. We don't, to spend $1,500 is a lot of money for us. And at the end of the day, we're replacing an existing kitchen. We've had a kitchen for many, 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 many years, and we're replacing the stuff that we had there. We've had a fryer later here for I don't know, probably 15 or 18 years. It was old and antiquated, as our stove was, and it was time to upgrade.
So,
Yeah, and, okay, sorry to cut you off, but
Sure.
two quick things on the Title V inspection. Number one, the Board of Health can require you to get one at any time, and you have to do it. And two, anytime there's a change in type of establishment, which, yeah, I guess you can make a case this isn't, but to me it is, because you're going from, I don't know, function hall, limited food to a food service establishment. That's a change in use. So at that time, you get a Title V inspection. That's common practice,
Well,
and it's in Title V.
we're looking for 15 or 16 seats.
Mhm.
We don't have table service. I mean, I don't, the added stress, there's not going to be any added stress on our septic system. And once again, I think it just comes down to the money thing. I mean, it does create a financial hardship for us. So that is going to be a sticking point, is what you're telling me.
Yes.
And Jason, if I can ask a quick question. So we're a function hall and functions 100 people. So if you have 100 people using the bathrooms, whether it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or 7 days a week, there's no change in that septic. We're just looking for, like Tom said, we have 15, 20 people stop in. It's not a full, we're not having a full restaurant where there'll be people, constant turnovers, the whole 9 yards. So that's my only question is, we do have functions. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm just trying to do a comparison that one function is probably the whole month worth of people stopping in to grab a quick bite.
Yep.
Council of Aging has been here for all the time, Council of Aging.
Yeah, so listen, good question, Commander Fitzpatrick. Any arrangement between the Legion and, the town and the Board of Health prior to this point is what it was. If you guys are coming to us now looking to do these revisions and do food service establishment, that's why we're going through all this now and asking these things of you. So I mean, that's kind of, you can't control anything from the past. We can only control from here on out. So,
Okay,
that's
so
where we're at.
50 years, no problem.
And having,
Well-
I mean, these are, the Title V inspection is a basic requirement for you at this time. And I would say that I'm inclined to think that we can talk some more about the grease trap, but I'm not sure that there's a point to that, but I certainly think about it some more. I don't know what you think, Jason.
Well-
Yeah,
Well,
I don't want to. Sorry to cut you off, Tom. I don't want to speak for the board, but I think if maybe we could come to some kind of agreement where, if maybe we were to give some leeway on the grease trap, then you work with us and are able to take care of those two other conditions that we gave you. To me, that's more than fair. But that's, I don't have a vote or say on it, so that's up to the board.
all right, so
Title
I think that's, we're getting someplace. I think the Title V, we can, I'm not afraid of something bad coming up. It is absolutely dollars and cents. And so if we go ahead with the Title V, the grease trap, once again, I hate to dwell on it, but when the deli and the market put those in, technology has changed quite a bit. And so now you have much more efficient grease traps. Like I said, I've done lots of homework on it. They're super efficient now, and they're much more accessible, and people will be much more apt to clean them out and keep an eye on them. And like I said, you're welcome to come in, and we have nothing to hide with that. So the one stipulation that we're stuck on as a Title V that I think I'd have to run it by the board. I think that that's definitely doable. And so what was the second item?
You
That we
need to
were-
have,
Calculation,
you need to have an engineer actually calculate the capacity of the system for you guys, just because we don't have any information on it.
Well, okay.
That's what-
So yeah, we can do that. I don't know how, I'm sure that our septic guy can figure that out. He's familiar with it. So that, I think that's, it's not what we're looking for, but I think if you work with us, we appreciate it. And, honestly, we're just trying to do the right thing for the town. We are the closest thing to a community center they have. We've adopted all of the programs over at the Carroll School, Park and Rec, all the school
Council on
programs,
Aging.
COA that we host here. We're just trying to do the right thing for
And we
everybody
certainly-
and make it palatable for us.
We certainly appreciate what you do for the community, but we have a responsibility to make sure that you're abiding by the environmental codes that are important for all establishments in town, whether they're for-profit or not for profit. That's very important.
No, I can appreciate that. You're just doing your job, and that's what I'm doing too. And I do it for the love of the town. I've been here a long time.
So, I feel as if I would like to talk more with Jason about the grease trap issue before I say that I'm comfortable saying no grease trap as long as you meet certain conditions. I think I'd like to have a little more knowledge about what those conditions would be, and maybe that might mean having you all write up what you would propose doing about grease as an option, but maybe some conversations are needed before that.
Yeah, no, just to reiterate, we are all for doing a grease trap.
We're getting
That
one.
we have already researched it. We are already in the process of securing one. But we're talking an internal grease trap versus a 1,000-gallon tank that we have to dig up our parking lot and spend $25,000 on. So a grease trap is a.
You're talking about
So
a
we
grease interceptor rather than the grease trap that.
Yeah, that's probably a better term for it. That's correct.
So,
Okay.
so, Steve, what do you think of what I've said? What are you thinking?
I think it's worth understanding the capacity of grease interceptors. I suspect that in this day and age, they're perfectly adequate for their needs and require environmental requirements. But still, I would not want to decide tonight on that particular issue. And as regarding Title V, I think that they do have to go through an inspection because there is definitely a change of their service. And seems as though they're amenable to that.
And also amenable to having an engineer do the calculation for them.
Yeah. So what, I mean, like, what type of financial, I mean, what does that, something like that cost?
Can't
mean,
answer
how
that for you. Not sure.
Well, I mean, do they have to dig up the septic system to do it? Or, I mean, like, I don't know how else they could calculate it without actually getting into the.
Would someone like Scott Septic be able to do that sort of service, or would you have to go outside?
Scott Septic probably no, but if it's something that needs to be done, Scott Septic probably has an engineer or someone that they work closely with who may be able to assist with that.
I'll sign him. Just tell him he knows him.
Okay, so we'll talk about it with Fitz and with the board. It's going to have to be obviously discussed. I think that we probably would lean towards doing that. So moving forward, I don't really know what the time frame is to have them come in and do something like that. B, can we extend our temporary permits till we can get this all handled? Or how does that work, Jason?
Steve?
I'd just like to have in writing from you under the current temporary permit, how you are handling whatever grease you do generate.
Are you talking about into the septic or grease that we're using?
The stuff the burgers are generating grease. This- And perhaps something else that you serve, but I'd just like to understand the
We can do a letter.
level we're currently operating at in terms of continuing to improve temporary permits.
Right. Well, so, I mean, we can write that up with the amount of grease that's generated. Obviously, burgers aren't one of our biggest things, but we might generate several ounces of that a day. Basically, put it in with like a absorbent and just throw it into the trash.
Okay, just put it in writing that you do that sort of stuff. I think
Yeah.
you need that documentation.
We
To answer
certainly will.
your question though, Tom, if you can get me an updated application tomorrow, I have no reason to not approve it as long as the board is still okay with it.
Yeah,
But
he-
it technically expired yesterday, so you have to get me a new one if you're going to continue.
Okay, well, it's expired through, what was yesterday, the first?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, yes, I will come over first thing in the morning and do that. And then I'll talk to Fitz later. He's away in California, and we don't want to drag our feet on it. We've honestly, we've tried to do everything that you have asked and everything that your predecessor asked, and, you know, simple things we just do.
So does the board want to make a decision? You want to continue this the next month? What do you guys want to do?
We're certainly going to continue the change in status provisions. Regarding the extension of the temporary permit, I would offer a motion that we do so with the proviso that they provide us something in writing as to how the grease is currently handled.
We'll bring that over in the morning.
I will bring that with the application tomorrow morning.
And then we'll continue this until our next meeting. In the meantime, we will do some discussion about grease management. It would be helpful if you wanted to write up what you're doing about grease, maybe taking what you're doing for your temporary permit and elaborating on that, so we have as much sense as possible about what you would like to see happen.
No problem.
But I see no reason, I think we're in agreement as a board, that you should go ahead and plan for your Title V inspection and to talk with whomever you're going to speak with about having an engineer do the calculation. Certainly, talking Scott Septic would be a good way to start. And they, as Jason said, they can probably steer you toward an engineer that they work with.
Yeah, we have a good relationship with them over the years, so I will, I'll reach out to Dottie and see who she can refer me to, or if they do it in-house or whatever. So we have plenty of resources here at the Legion. People know different engineers and.
Paul, if you're comfortable speaking on it since you're here, is that something you've ever done or know someone who has experience with? If you've been following along?
Paul, you're muted.
He's
Paul?
not muted, but we can't hear him for some reason.
Right, he's not muted.
Turn
Paul,
up
can
your
you hear us?
volume. Turn up your volume, Paul.
I don't feel so bad now.
Oh, right, it's probably not even.
I did it too earlier.
Paul, we still can't hear you. Paul, can you hear us? Can you hear me?
Jason, while we're just waiting for Paul to click in, just a quick question. Once we address those three things, we talked about our permit and how, even though it's a permit, there was different expectations of it. What can the Legion expect after we do we talk about the Title V, grease trap, the three things you were talking about? Does that give us then a full-blown, full service, we're good to go permit?
It pretty much does. The only thing you guys will have to keep in mind is you'll be treated just like any other food establishment. You know, we'll have to do a pre-operational inspection before you fully open up. And you'll need to be fully compliant with, food code and all those things that go along with it. So, hygiene, cleanliness, temperatures, all the above. So as long as you guys know and understand that, I know Tom has experience with that. So, you know, as long as you guys are compliant with all that, yes, it gives you the ability to be a full service food establishment if that's what you guys are seeking.
Okay, appreciate. Yeah, we're used to that. I know the town of Dover used to contract out to an inspector that would come sporadically, you know, and do the test,
Yep.
which we've any recommendations they had, we complied right away with. So.
Okay, so, do we have any other questions? Oh, Paul, you were gonna, can you hear us? Can't hear
No.
you, Paul.
Just tell him he's getting ready.
I heard a beep.
Heard something.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak for Paul, obviously, but my assumption was he's probably either done it personally or at least knows of some engineers who have probably done that. It's not an easy task, but it's doable, and it would be someone 100 times smarter than I am doing it. So that's for the best.
Would you like me to send some information on the grease traps that we have been researched? Because obviously, if that's going to be a sticking point, you're probably going to want to know what we're installing. And I don't want to do it and then have
Yeah,
it
if you
not.
could send over some specs to my email, Tom, that'd be helpful. And here's the thing too. I mean, this whole grease trap thing that's the one thing in all of this that I think is subjective.
All right.
The other
Yeah.
two items we're asking of you, I really don't think there's any leeway on. They just are what they are. They have to be done. But the grease trap, I think we can work with each other on that. And like I said, if we work with you on that particular item, then the expectation would be that you could hopefully work with us on the other two items.
Yeah, we will absolutely work with you. You've been good with us. It's just, once again, I'm not being difficult. It just comes down to dollars and cents.
Right.
So do you have any questions, Sarah?
No.
So I think we're good to go. I'll come over and see you in the morning. You're probably sick of seeing me, but we'll do that.
No,
And
we love having you. Stop over anytime.
all right.
I just want to
Thank
say,
you guys for having us.
I want to say one other thing, and that is everyone knows this, but the reason that Title V dictates something about grease is that grease can ruin your septic system, and it can really backfire. And it's really important to keep grease out, as you were taught by your father. And if you don't have a plan that's going to keep the grease out of your system's going to be more likely to fail, and that's the last thing you want to have happen.
No, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why we have Don Scott come on at least an annual basis, because they can look in and see if there's any grease. And, we're not here all the time, so people can be flushing different things down the toilet. So if they're here and they catch it before there's a problem, you're way ahead of the game.
Yep. Good. All right. So we'll be talking.
All right. Does the
Thank
board
you
want
for
to
your
make a
time.
motion or anything, or?
I don't think we need a motion, do we?
If we haven't had
Depends on what you wanna do.
motions passed regarding the temporary permits, then I withdraw the motion. But if we have had motions, then let's have a vote on it. I don't think we have had motions on the temporary permits.
I don't think we have. I think we've just been giving them and
No, and I mean, we don't have to vote
Jason
on it
has-
as long as you guys are okay with it. We can approve it if he's coming in tomorrow.
Yeah,
and Jason has the authority to approve that. So, all right.
But do we want to reconvene next meeting, or during that time frame, Tom and the Legion folks can start working on at least getting the Title V inspection arranged?
Yep. And doing some research about the septic engineer. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we'll see where we're at in November then.
Okay. And you'll get us information about your grease management ideas.
Yeah, so we'll get that all together. I'll bring that over tomorrow, and then we'll get on our end of it, and we'll stay in. I talk to Jason once a week anyway, so we'll stay in close contact there.
Very good. Okay. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
No,
So I just want to say thank you myself.
no,
Appreciate you guys joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
okay, so, before we proceed, let's find out, Bob Tosi and Bob Zakhoff are here. Which items on the agenda are they here for? Do we know?
I don't know.
Tosi, you just looking at, is listening in general, or do you have specific?
I'm just being nosy and watching in general.
Okay,
Okay, all right.
That's Bob Tosi's a big Board of Health fan, so I'm not shocked to see him on here. Appreciate having his support.
Bob
And Bob
Zakhoff here.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
You're
Hi.
happy, we're happy to have you here too. We just want to, if you have a particular item on our agenda you're interested in, we'll move it up so you don't have to sit here interminably while we talk about other things. Did you
Thank
have?
you. Yeah, 8 Sterling, excuse me, 8 Greystone.
Okay. So, Jason, shall we go ahead and you ready to talk about eight Greystone?
Yeah, sure, if the group wishes. Bob, are you, if you don't mind me asking, are you the homeowner? Are you the project manager? What's your?
None of those. I operate the water system in Glen Ridge and in Meadowbrook, and we're the supplier to the to that property. You know, we've given them a letter of supply for the building permit, but they did some work when they were doing the house. We had water mains out there that we had some problems with.
And Bob, you live in that neighborhood, right?
That's correct. I'm over on Yorkshire.
That's right.
So do they have issue with the water? Do you know what I mean? Is there?
No,
is there
there's,
something holding this up on that end, or?
No, actually, I see there's a red circle on the water line coming in from the street.
Yes, sir.
And that is their service line from the main, which is on the edge of the street.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I always circle wherever the water is located on any septic plan I review. But yeah, so anyway, 8 Greystone, septic approval. This is a new construction, so they're looking to add flow from the existing system. I believe it's going from a 3-bedroom to a 5-bedroom. They sent me floor plans as well, which I verified bedroom count. One big thing on this one is it is a Presby system. So, you know, an innovative alternative system. I believe the idea being in this case, with a Presby system, they can get away with a smaller footprint. Actually, the leaching area essentially has a 40% reduction. So that's what they have down here. It's the leaching area down in that bottom left area here. They're also putting in this big swimming pool that you see. So I assume that probably had something to do with the want for a smaller footprint. Other than the fact that this is a Presby system, there's really not much else on this that's too complex. They will need a deed restriction just because anytime you are doing an innovative system, you need to get one. Any questions from the board? I mean, this plan was pretty straightforward. As you can see, I don't have a whole lot of notes or anything crazy on here. You more or less, anytime you have an innovative system, it's your traditional septic review, and you also, each one of these systems has a manual that you have to kind of comb through and just make sure they're meeting all the nuances and things like that. So I don't have a whole lot of concern on this one.
Well, as long as the water supply is agreed upon, it's fine.
Bob, do
Yeah,
you
and
have-
actually, I'm glad Bob's on and brought that up because in a situation like this, I don't know if you know, Bob, did they not have public water previously? Was there like an old well on the property?
No, that, they were the property was previously a member of the water.
Okay, gotcha.
I do have a question. Is the, solid line the edge of the street, or is that a setback? The line that goes, parallels the water main.
That's the road. Yeah,
The
the
water
septic
main
is-
is actually off the edge of the road, running along that dark, the solid line.
Yep.
And it seems I don't,
Whoops.
yeah, that's great. If you could enlarge that.
Yep, sorry about that. Let me just see if I can get back to it.
How close, is the edge of the road to the leach field?
Looks like it's about 10 feet, which is the requirement.
And the water line runs somewhere in there, probably 2 to 3 feet into the, from the edge.
from the edge of the
Yep.
road?
Yes,
So what is is there a requirement for setback of a leaching field from a water line?
Actually, there isn't, believe it or not, but if it's ideally if they cross over, they're supposed to be 18 inches apart. And one of the lines is typically sleeved, meaning they around the pipe they put like a bigger secondary pipe type of thing. So yeah, 10 feet is the requirement from the road. And they if the line was to cross over, technically it could, but in this case it looks like it's I don't know how far out that is. The scale on this is 1 to 20. So
Well, wait, can you tell me again where the water line is? Is it in the street?
do you see
no, it is not.
No.
The water line is, on the house side of the street berm. So where you show the current water line out in the middle of the street, that is incorrect. Or not you, but the,
okay. So I see what you're saying, Bob. So you don't think this is accurate?
No, it is not. We know the water line is about 2 to 3 feet in from the edge of the street onto the property, where it crosses over to the neighboring property at number 10.
Where it
Because
crosses over?
that's where we had a break last January after they were hammering the ledge for the foundation.
And
Yeah, I mean, if that is indeed the case, I think it's fair to go back to these folks and request a revision before we give a final approval, if that's something the board's okay with, just so we have a more accurate representation.
And it would seem that the leaching field should be moved away from the water main also, shouldn't it? I mean, shouldn't there be some?
There isn't a regulation, Jason said, regarding the water lines distance from the leaching field.
But he
It-
said that it should be about 18 inches and
There-
the water
there-
line should be sleeved, right?
That these are prudent things, but they're not required, as I understand it. So therefore, we can't legislate it. I mean, that's their choice, and they can be informed that it's good practice to do the things that we suggest, but they don't have to do that.
Yeah.
But they do have to revise this to be a true representation.
Yeah, and I'm also happy to double check also on that, just to make sure there's not anything we're missing if it if it is indeed a whole lot closer than we believe it is. I think that's fair.
I can confirm that there is no accurate GIS mapping of the water mains. They were installed by the town of Natick in the late 50s, and when this development was starting, and that was they never. Well, they had paper maps that got thrown out when they went to GIS. They said, "Oh, that's Dover. We don't need that," and it disappeared. And I work with Natick fairly regularly, because they're our water supplier. We buy in bulk from them, so they don't have any better information, and neither do we. But I do know where the line is on the property above and the property below. So I do know that it runs at least a foot from the edge of the street into the property.
And it could be more, is that what you're saying when you say?
Down at that point where at the corner, the lower corner of their property, it would be more than that. It would be probably 2 to 3 feet.
But
Now,
that's
the
not-
corner of the corner of the property is past the septic, probably 20 feet.
Yeah. So are you concerned about the septic, Bob? Are you and the water main, or are you concerned more about the mapping being accurate? What?
Well, number one, accurate for the mapping. Number two, we lost 1 million gallons of water in January that we paid for.
Oh my God.
And it was that bill was $5,000 worth of water, and I had another $8,000 repair that was the result of construction.
Construction on 8 Greystone, you mean?
Correct. I mean, you can't prove that, a guy digging a hole and hammering ledge caused the problem. And we didn't, but we've never had any trouble with these mains on that street before. And it happened within 20 days of the work being done. So
Yeah.
I'm just concerned that a septic going in that close to the water main could disrupt that main. And if it breaks, that takes Boston College offline.
I didn't realize that it went all the way down that far.
Yeah, it goes down to 12 Greystone, so 2 more houses, and then there's a left turn that is through the yard and goes through the woods to Boston College. Actually, that was the reason the water was connected to Natick originally, was for the Dominican Retreat Center.
I didn't know that. Steve, did you know that?
I did not.
Yeah, what happened was
I'm surprised.
when they were expanding that Dominican priory, they needed more water. They had small spring-fed tanks that were inadequate, and they got an amendment to some bill going through the House at the time, and they tagged it on the end and said, "Oh, Natick's going to provide water." So, and the people, at the time, the developed neighborhood then added 40 houses onto that system.
Mhm.
Old Sherman Brown must have been reveling.
No, well, yeah, he did a lot of some of the houses up here, but more on the lower part of Glen Ridge.
Was he a builder who did
Yeah.
the house?
Yeah, he was a builder and actually had a house in this neighborhood.
Yeah, so I guess if it's okay with the group, I'm happy to circle back with these folks who submitted this plan and just, maybe have them double check on that and maybe even submit a revision. And to even take that a step further, there's really no reason why they couldn't. I'm not saying we can make them, but there's even a little room for them to bump the leaching area, a little further away from the road. So I'm happy to speak with them and see what we can get, figured out and go from there.
Bob, have you spoken or has anyone spoken with them about the concern about constructing a septic system and in the proximity to the water main and the concern about damage to the main?
No, because this is the first that we've seen of a plan. They've just asked for water service and, yes, we'll do that. We did it before, so that wasn't a problem. But I didn't have any details on the septic plan until this meeting.
So what we'll do, or Jason will do then, is to see if there's anything further that we should know about how we should be regulating this. If there's anything beyond Title V and our Dover bylaws related to the water main, and then work with them on revising their plan to make it more accurate. How are they going to get the information about the water main? Is that by talking with you, Bob?
Yeah, I'm the operations guy, in addition to the chairman of the trust and the guy who reads meters and
Wow.
Yeah. It's definitely not Aquarian, but it does take work and it's all volunteer.
It's volunteer? Wow.
Yeah, well, it's when you retire, you have to work for a living.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yes.
Bob, if you don't mind, my email's on the town website. Could you maybe just shoot me a message or something so I have your contact? Is that okay?
Sure.
Great.
Yeah, pleasure to meet you, by the way.
Yeah, you also. We appreciate you coming.
Jason, just so you know, Bob was very involved in the Water Resources Study Committee over the, that was functioning for I don't know how many years, but he was quite involved.
Well, primarily because we're supplied by water from Natick, as is the Meadowbrook neighborhood, and I work with them also. I help operate their system so that, because they don't have somebody like me that will do all the metering and accounting for billing and all that stuff. So I help them out.
Yeah, and so if it's okay with the board, why don't I do my due diligence on this and my follow-up, and then, approve it or deny it, as I see fit, rather than holding this up till a future meeting. Does that
And
work?
just maybe just chat with us
Yeah,
about what you learn.
Sure.
And depending on what you learn, we might want to bring it up at a future board meeting. It just depends. So
definitely.
it's a very interesting problem. Okay, good.
And possibly not unique in the future.
Yes, yes.
No, it's a great point by Bob, because it's definitely something that'll be on my radar, from now on. So really appreciate you coming and bringing this to our attention, Bob.
Well, the developers say they love my part of the neighborhood because of the water supply, and that you approved 6 Meadowbrook, which as Bob Coates, who owned it, currently owns it, said he thought it was undevelopable because there was so much wetland, half the property. Public water supply really changes that. When you have access. So the developers love this neighborhood. They can build a much bigger house, with available 1 acre.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks for joining us.
Okay.
Okay. So, onward with our agenda.
Did you guys want to make a motion or anything on that, or just leave it?
I don't think, I think we need more information before we make a decision. I'd like to hear what you learned in your research.
Okay.
Steve, what do you think?
No, we need to know, and we probably need to discuss it publicly, just because of the precedent issues in the future. So it should be
Sure,
on.
yeah,
Agenda
I'll
for
follow
next-
up and I'll share with you guys, and sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Steve.
Jason, it should be on the agenda for next meeting.
Do you think the DEP has, would have anything to say about septic systems adjacent to water mains?
Or so, sorry, you
What?
asking me? I didn't. Yeah, I mean, like I said, if the water line crosses over in the yard, there's supposed to be 18 inches of separation, and generally one of them is sleeved. And it also says within the setbacks in Title V, I have it pulled up now, 10 feet from any pressured water supply line. So I take that to mean the water supply in the road. So if this leaching area is already 10 feet from the property line, which it has to be, obviously the water line isn't running along the exact property line. It's a little further out. To Bob's point, it's closer than what the plan is showing it is, but it still meets the setback. But even still, I mean, if you can get away with being further out, why wouldn't you do it?
I think that this may require some GPS location, just to make sure that the setbacks are correct, given the sensitivity of it being a public supply water line.
I can say that when Calumet did one Greystone, which is up at the corner. GLM, I believe, was the engineer, I believe, and they set the septic 10 feet from the pressure line, which is our main, which runs along Glen Street. So they did 10 feet. They did multiple test locations to make sure they found the line exactly where it was, and then 10 feet off it. So I don't think they would have done that if they didn't have to. And I didn't see the plans, but I know they moved the septic a little bit at one point away from the street.
That was 1 Yorkshire, you said?
Correct.
So maybe we should look up what we have in our files about 1 Yorkshire.
Sure.
Bob, did the main get mapped? I mean, was there any GIS mapping of the portions that were identified during that construction? Do you know? I mean, are you trying to GIS locate?
No, we don't have any facility to do that. As the town doesn't, right? Do you have any? No, right? I know. I've gone through this with DPW too. Meadowbrook, we have hand sketches of the Meadowbrook water line, and over the past 3 years, I've been creating more detailed maps of that because we don't know where it all goes. We know approximately where it goes within 10 feet, but not any closer than that. So our GIS mapping is 10 feet resolution.
Wow.
Down in Meadowbrook. Up here, it's better than that. We know more accurately where it is, but not every little piece. And this particular one, we didn't know how far out in the street it was, or on the property it was till they actually dug.
Mhm. So it seems to me that we need to figure out what we can suggest and what we can require. And Jason's research will help with that, and also some research about what happened at One Yorkshire in the past and whether there's something in that file that would help us understand how that septic system got pushed back, and maybe, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we can do a little bit more due diligence before we give final approval on this.
Okay, good.
I'm more than happy to do that.
all right.
So, Jason, when would you expect to come back to the board with that?
I'm hoping I get an answer on that tomorrow. So hopefully this week.
Spot.
So the next, well, Kay, you were saying you thought you should do it in public, so would that be the next meeting?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean, it's possible. It just depends on what Jason finds, and I mean, you could imagine that Jason talks to the engineer and they redraw it and they decide, oh, we're going to move it back 20 feet and it's a non-issue, and then maybe we wouldn't have to discuss it in a month, but
there's a
unless-
pool there.
right. Maybe they swapped the pool and the septic system. I don't know. But-
Wetlands, there's wetlands back there, which
So
is
they
the
don't-
other
They don't have
problem.
a lot of wiggle room. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I suspect we'll be talking about it next month.
Although if we push it to next meeting, we're not that it makes a difference to me, but we would be holding up those folks a full month if we do that.
That's all right. They've got to get it at right.
Okay, no, I'm just making sure everyone knows.
Okay. All right. Now, are we really done talking about that property?
Yes, we have to be.
All right, let's move on.
Next.
Next topic, should we go to our minutes? We have nobody else from the public here to talk about a specific issue, so should we do our minutes?
Please.
We have two minutes from July and August. We could approve them in one motion if I don't have any objections at this point. Steve, do you?
Yeah, that's something.
Pardon?
There was something.
Okay. All right, so should we talk about July 1st then?
8:14. Those minutes.
Jason, can you pull them up?
Can I pull them up? Sure.
Do you mind?
And it's just a phraseology.
And this is not loading. Not sure why. Try again. I'm sorry, you said the 14th, right?
Yep.
August?
Yep.
All right, what do we got?
Go down to member Quackenbush. Which is,
Member Quackenbush.
says member Quackenbush noted over 20 years, he has had no issues. So that's ambiguous.
Meaning that, not that meaning, where is it?
Should read
Did I
member,
pass it on?
Yeah, it was up toward the top.
it's in number 11, and then it's the second paragraph in 1-1, taken out of order.
Okay. Noted over 20 years, he has had no issues.
Yeah,
You don't want that?
that's ambiguous,
He meant Mr. Conrad has no issues.
correct?
Can you just,
Oh.
so Priscilla, can you just change he to Mr. Conrad?
I can do it right now.
Looks like the sentence might have gotten separated in our, or yeah, with some of the other edits that were done, it might have gotten, yeah, no problem.
All right, that's it. That's all set. All right, great. Okay.
I have
Steve,
no
is that your only
motion to approve these minutes?
second?
All in favor? Yes.
So that's the August, and shall we do the same with the July minutes? I move that we accept the July minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, next, 9 Buttercup.
Yeah, so if I may, I did speak with Mr. Lax earlier today. He wasn't able to make it this evening. But I will say, I don't know if you guys recall from the last meeting, but he lived up to his word. He stopped in the office that very week. We sent him off with the list of engineers, installers, and Priscilla had a conversation with him. Sent him on his way. He has since contracted with McIntyre Engineering, which he confirmed, and McIntyre also confirmed with me via email. They stopped in the office just today and submitted a soil test application. The only thing that's going to hold these guys up probably for a couple of weeks, I would guess, and I, obviously don't want to speak for them, but there is wetlands on the property, so they have to go through conservation process. So once they're through that, we can do our soil testing, and things should move very quickly from there, I would imagine. We could soil test and they could do the design plans, depending on how busy they are, within a couple of weeks. So, and then from there, once we approve, obviously, then they can move to the install. So, should hopefully move fairly quickly. But like I said at the last meeting, this is going to kind of be a month-to-month deal where we're just going to have to, at the next meeting, see where he's at, and at the following meeting, see where he's at. So that's what I told Mr. Lax today. I told him we'd expect to see him in November. So my recommendation to the board at this point would to just be, continue this to November, and we'll expect another update from Mr. Lax. But so far, very promising, I would say. I'm very pleased with how things have moved, given all the circumstances and everything. So
That's fantastic. Do we need a motion about this? Just continue as we are.
yeah, we'll just be on the November agenda.
Perfect, Jason. Okay, 40B at Trout Brook 40B. We wanted to just summarize where things are with that.
Yeah, and I mean, the truth is there really isn't much, but the board saw the handful of inquiries and things that came up with it last week, so I felt it was necessary to put it on the agenda and at least address, kind of the situation from our perspective. So the truth is we really haven't had much involvement thus far. Mike Angieri, the previous agent, did soil testing out there last October. And that's about it on our end so far. And now I will say the results of those soil tests were fairly grim for the most part. It's high groundwater in that area, wetlands everywhere. It's a flood zone. Just all kinds of stuff going on. Not ideal at all for building and septic. So that's about all I know at the moment. Obviously, they are going through the 40B process and going through zoning board of appeals and all that. I don't know this. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, the process still does not exclude us, or should they proceed regarding the septic issues. So at some point if and when they get that far, we'll be glad to address
Okay.
the issue.
Well, what do you mean by addressing the issues, Steve?
Well, make sure that they're not putting the environment at risk by putting in septic systems that would be at risk to the environment. That's redundant, but true. And
Except that-
we'll be glad
except
to
that-
review it.
Except that we won't, if they're using the 40B process, then the Dover bylaws really aren't going to pertain.
The state allows, the state's rules on 40B allow that sort of review and a halt. Put
And
in
what?
place- And a halt put in place if the environment is at risk.
So the only other thing I would mention is Jason sent a summary about about what he just said to us to Alan Fryer, the chair of the ZBA, so that he has that information to work with, but he hasn't discussed it with us or brought it up at any of the meetings so far. Okay, anything else about that? Any questions additionally or comments?
No, that's about it. I'm sure every week we'll learn more about it, but that's kind of where we're at so far. Had a citizen reach out sometime last week. I invited him tonight if he was interested in making a comment, but I don't see that he's on. But you know, if anyone else reaches out, I'm happy to speak with them and help them out and answer any questions as best as I can. So
Okay, good. Steve, anything else about it?
Nope, not at this point.
Dover Market?
yeah, so I just they applied for a tobacco license, of course. They've been inspected. They're compliant with the regulations. They have all their signage. You know, they're not going to be selling any banned items. You know, nothing flavored or anything like that. License is all set to be issued. I did not want to do it without getting final approval and sign off from the board. So I you know, put it on the agenda for tonight so the board could have a formal vote on it before our office actually issued anything. Now, obviously, this would be the second and final license issued within our town. So I just wanted to make it more formal and official of a process before we get it all wrapped up.
Well, I think the board should have some second thoughts about limiting the number of tobacco licenses in town to 2. This is a new entity and they're using the last license allowed by the board.
Are you aware of anyone else who's interested in a license?
I don't know what's going to happen to the Dover Deli, but the Dover Deli is going to have a new incarnation, I can tell you that.
Mhm.
And it's not clear to me at this point, nor is it public, who's going to be taking over for Charlie's operation. And at the very least, there ought to be a tobacco license available for at least one more establishment in town. Otherwise, you're stifling potentially growth and necessary establishments to the welfare of the town.
I would say that having additional businesses that sell tobacco products is not good for the welfare of the town. But anyway, we're not going to agree about that. I think the matter at hand is whether we grant the license now to the Dover Market. And shall I make a motion that we do that? Are we ready for a motion? Do we have more discussion, Steve?
You're free to make a motion.
All right, I move that we grant the tobacco license, issue the tobacco license to the Dover Deli. I mean, Dover Deli, the Dover Market. Do you second that?
Nope.
So you would
Not without
say-
raising the number of licenses to 3.
okay, So we won't proceed with that. We'll continue this till our next meeting.
All right, so
Um,
Dover Market's not getting a tobacco license then, till at least next month?
They,
No,
they,
it's next month.
they carried over to next month.
Now, Steve, you don't think that's anti-business for you? I mean, it's
It just,
Well-
it's not anti-business. It's common sense to allow businesses to have a tobacco license to provide services to the town that it may not have.
it depends on whether you consider yourself interested in, never mind, I'm not gonna get, never mind. Let's go on to something else.
Motion-
What?
Motion to reconsider.
I'm sorry, what,
Motion to reconsider.
to reconsider the motion I just
No.
made? I'm sorry, but I don't know what to do with that from a,
But what you do is you propose the same motion, it's Robert's rules. And you see if you can get a second and then you have a vote.
okay, I move to reconsider,
Okay,
motion to
I
grant. the-
second the motion to reconsider.
And
Now,
that-
I'll vote.
All right, well, so the motion is to, the motion that we reconsidered is the motion to grant the license to the Dover Market. All in favor? I, Kay Peterson.
Same, Stephen Kruskal.
All
So,
right. All right, we
right,
can move on from that one.
okay,
All right, let me get through the rest of my report here. I know obviously we already discussed the 8 Greystone.
Yep.
Flu clinic. Obviously that's the big thing we've been working on. Have around I think it's around 100 signups or so at the moment. And obviously we still have about 10 or so more days at this point. It's next Friday, the 13th. Yeah, I mean, haven't had any issues with signups or anything like that. It's been pretty smooth for the most part. We'll make sure we're good for next Friday. Tables and chairs. We'll make sure Moji's all set. We'll have a volunteer also. Advertising, our sign went up today, I believe. It's in the newspaper. It's been posted around the townhouse. I don't know that it's been email blasted yet, but I can certainly do that. It's posted on the website, posted on Facebook. Pretty well covered. Steve, you had something you wanted to say?
Yes, just to be reassured that in the case of inclement weather, the facilities are provided for. And as you know, the highway department has had some water issues recently with heavier rains.
Yeah, and it's a great point. I'm glad you brought it up. We're gonna have a few tents set up just in case, or at least on standby if we do need them. Because it's important to note we will not have access to the inside of the highway department building, so we'll be completely outside. So, in the event the weather's bad, we'll have a couple pop-up tents and we'll have a little bit of coverage that way. So, fingers crossed and hope for the best at this point. COVID test kits, it's something we've been discussing lately. I've been exploring different avenues with that. Obviously, the big development in the last week or two was the availability for any U.S. citizens to get, free COVID tests. I think, is it 4?
Yes,
yes.
Yeah.
I've already applied. It's very simple.
Yeah, very easy process. So I guess kind of where we're at in the process is trying to figure out if we do indeed want to get more at this point, and through what channel are we going to do that. Kay and I are meeting with town administrator next week, and that's going to be one of our main topics that we're going to be discussing. So that's kind of where we're at. And as far as Narcan goes, one of the requests from last meeting was we were going to put some messaging up on the website. So I put together a write-up with the help of Priscilla, and shared it with the board. And Steve's going to be making some edits to that document just to make it more, Steve's a lot more qualified to speak on that type of subject as opposed to me. So if he can put his medical background and experience into that, that would be awesome. And that's about all I have for the report. Any questions on any of that, or did you want to move on to the next couple items?
There's a couple items that have been in previous discussions that I thought there would be updates on, such as the trash haulers.
Yeah, so I'm just, as most of the group knows, I've been working with somebody at the state, Mass DEP. I'm just waiting to hear back from them on our draft to see if there's anything we need to change before we move forward. And I guess the next step from there would be sharing it with town council just to make sure there's no, we don't have anything wrong in terms of legal verbiage or anything like that. So that's the next step. Steve?
Has the recycling committee signed off in writing with the current iteration?
Yeah, actually, I've gotten some feedback from recycling committee and I've updated it to reflect all their requests. So as far as I know, they are up to speed with it in its current format.
They ought to probably confirm that.
What
We
do you mean?
also have discussed access to the recordings of our meetings.
Wait, before you leave the recycling committee and the trash hauler regs, what are you looking for from the recycling?
Just a statement of approval as it currently stands.
Like an email or something
Yeah.
like?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jason, do you have that something like that from them? Have they given you an email?
I've had a few email exchanges with Carol Lisbon about it, but I can get a official verbal confirmation from her saying they're good with it in its current form.
The chairperson of the recycling committee is Jennifer Luthi.
Yeah, get Jen to sign off on it.
I can do that. Anything else on trash regs or?
So
We also have had on the agenda previously access for the public and for members, recordings of previous Board of Health monthly meetings.
So it turns out that to do that is a lot of work. And I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze for that. It's not work we can do, it's work we would be asking the town clerk. And I think we should begin with the present and move forward with that, but I think it's too much to ask.
We also have an update, if any, on electronic record filing.
Nothing concrete except that when we met with Jason and I met with Mike Blanchard, and he talked, and the selectmen have written in a memo that this is way up there on their list of priorities for this year. So that's no guarantee, but hopefully it means they're going to move forward with it. But that requires hiring somebody first. They have to have somebody. I assume they're going to have a project manager who's going to be responsible for this and not an IT director, but I don't know I don't know for sure whether that's the plan. Have either Priscilla or have you or Jason, have you heard whether there's anything specific about what kind of person they'll be hiring?
No idea. But I mean, in my experience, typically they hire a whole group of people to do something like this. Because I mean, think of how many bodies you're going to need to physically take all these files and upload them to whatever program we'll be utilizing for these electronic records. That's a very time-consuming, tedious task. Even if we were to move forward on something like that on our own, how are we going to achieve it? It's just something where the whole town needs to be on board and come up with a plan on how that's going to be achieved. And hopefully that, you know, it's obviously one of the Board of Selectmen goals. So it'd be great to see it come to fruition sooner rather than later.
Now let's move on.
Okay,
All right, items 10 and 11 were requests from Steve, so I'll turn it over to you, Steve, if you want to speak on either of those items, the Board of Health signage and the cell coverage.
Well, this Board of Health sign is a couple of issues. One is I was dismayed to see that in Denise Garlick's weekly message to her constituents that the COA was running the flu clinic and not the Board of Health. So we need to establish a little better communication with the administrative people in Denise's office regarding things that we can get credit for, and as well as publicity. There's not a lot that can be done about what's been already published, but in the future, I hope it's clear that when we do something that's good, that we get the credit for it. I'm also a little bit concerned about how issues that we consider of great import to the health of our town seem to not be given the priority as far as banners go on the town common. And the fact that the tick banner, again, has gone away when there is a space even currently for it, and why it shouldn't have much more prominence than it's been given is something that troubles me, because we still are, as I said on cable TV 15 or 20 years ago, ground zero for tick-borne diseases. That still is the case in town. So at least we can caution our own citizenry, are reasonably well educated, but the many out-of-towners that come in, especially from more urban areas, need to see that banner in the center of town and maybe check themselves for ticks and be a little more aware.
now,
And,
go ahead, sorry.
and I really think that Parks and Rec is not understood the importance of that.
I think Parks, I may be wrong about this, but my sense is that Parks and Rec has a policy that a banner goes up and stays up for 2 weeks and then it comes down. And it doesn't matter to them what it is. And then if you want it displayed again, you get in line again and get your banner up. Is that correct? Do you,
I've never seen any written policy of theirs. I would hope that one exists, but it'd be interesting to find out if one does exist. And secondly, for matters of public health, there should be some supervening provisos in that policy. At least that's what I believe. Maybe that's not held generally. But
Jason maybe should have a conversation with Mark about this, about the banners.
let's just see what his policy is in writing.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how it works. I know anytime we've asked Mark, he's done his best to try and accommodate us, you know, as best he can. So,
That tick
um,
banner is a very weak sister. Just as it's treated currently.
Wait, say that again, Steve. I missed that.
Our tick banner is a very weak sister as it is treated currently.
well, I mean, in fairness with the tick banner, I forget when we originally asked, maybe sometime at the beginning of summer. You know, he gave us a handful of weeks throughout the summer where he's had availability. And it's kind of just gone up and down. Since then, we haven't really ever, you know, reconfirmed with him or tried to get additional weeks. So we could certainly try and do that and see if there's any availability, you know, between now and our first frost, whenever that is, you know, in November or whenever it may be.
Is that okay with you, Steve?
Yeah, you could ask him for a copy of the policy, just so we understand. The other issue that I believe is a health issue is the failure for cell coverage to cover the town entirely. It translates into poor communications between EMS units and people who may have acute medical problems trying to reach even local EMS. And there are considerably large holes in town as far as the current coverage goes. And why that isn't a very high priority item and remedy is something that troubles me.
Are you aware of cases in which it's actually caused problems?
Yes. And you can ask Bob Tosi if he'd stayed on the line, he would tell you that there are certain areas of town where it's just coverage is horrible.
I mean, I know the coverage is horrible, but the question is does that translate into actual cases where people's care has been compromised because of poor cell coverage?
Even if we can't document a single case, but I think they're out there. Even
So
knowing that that's something that could happen.
it certainly could happen. I think
You
it's
pause. I can't get cell phone coverage in my driveway.
right. But I think that I don't think it's our role to intervene in this. I think that it's public safety's responsibility. They're the ones who are involved in the communication, and we're not. And we're not. We know that it's hard to use a cell phone in parts of Dover, but we don't have firsthand knowledge that it's actually caused injury to anybody. And I think would be presumptuous of us to start to work on this problem, given that we're not part of the emergency management system in town. I mean, have you talked to anybody in EMS about
Yes.
whether?
I've spoken to Tosi. I have not spoken to Ford Spalding about this. I've spoken to him about other issues regarding EMS, which aren't necessarily the purview of the Board of Health. So I'm speaking to him as a citizen.
Yeah.
But
Well, what would you
complaints
propose?
from the EMS people regarding the poor coverage in town?
So what
And
would you
that's
propose?
for you. I propose that the selectmen figure out how to adequately cover the town with cell towers.
Um,
And you know, if aesthetics, I think if it takes putting a tower on top of Snow Hill and maybe out by the high school, because those are areas right now that have some issues. And I can't enumerate all the other areas in town that are not adequately covered.
Well, are you proposing that you,
I think we
as a
just should say something to the selectmen saying the Board of Health thinks that cell phone coverage should be better in town due to the potential of EMS issues. I mean, obviously it wouldn't be phrased quite like that, but the gist of it would be, we think we'd make us a healthier town if we had adequate cell phone coverage.
I would say that that I could imagine that that could be the case, but I don't have any evidence that that's a problem. Certainly there's evidence that people have trouble using their cell phones in certain places, but whether that translates actually into a problem with emergency medical care, I don't know. And if we haven't been hearing about it from people who are running the EMS system in Dover, then I don't think it's our place to get involved in it. It's like meddling with their work to do that. I mean,
Well,
I could call up Tim Surgener and ask him if he's ever seen a case that, and if it's an issue from his perspective, maybe that would make sense. You know, he's very well tuned into what's happening with the ambulance service. Want me to do that and see what he says? I could come back.
sure.
I'll do that. Jason, do you know who Tim Surgener is? I think I mentioned him to you once when you first started. What's his title?
Yeah, you know, what's amazing actually is I've still never met the guy, but you and I have talked about him, yes.
Yeah. All right, well, I'll give him a call and I'll report back.
Sounds good.
The next issue is the Board of Selectmen roles and responsibilities memo. The email, you saw that, Steve, right?
I did.
Yeah. There's just a short phrase in it that I felt needed a response, and they're asking for a response by October 15th.
Well, they deserve one.
Yeah, and Steve, have you thought about a proposed response? I have. It's a very simple one, but if you have something, please tell me.
Well, I suspect your response will be more conciliatory than mine would be, so let's hear yours.
All right, let me find it here. Okay, so so Jason, would it be easy for you to pull up that second page of that memo?
So it's under the paragraph management of the town, the title management of the town, and it's the first paragraph that
Yeah.
is the issue.
All right, scroll down just a little. I don't think it's too far down.
Keep going.
There it is.
Right.
Okay, management of the town. And then it's the second phrase of the first sentence. This includes oversight of independent committees and boards to ensure adherence to the town's goals and objectives. So I would propose that we delete that phrase and we say that it should say this includes working collaboratively with independent boards and committees, period. With nothing, and not saying to ensure adherence to anything, just working collaboratively with independent boards and committees.
If they accepted that, I'd be satisfied. The issue is that we are an independently elected board. We're responsive to our constituents. We, at times, historically, have not agreed with the selectmen, most notably in the first year of COVID management. And the fact that that occurred and the potential still exists, and they say it's their hegemony, then they have the last say regarding issues that we believe to be in the benefit, for the benefit of the public's health. And when we're independently elected, it just doesn't sit right.
Yeah.
So I would settle for that phraseology. And it's their right to say whatever they want, but they should understand that the Board of Health, I would hope that you agree with this, is an independently elected body who makes its decisions based on the well-being of the citizenry who elected them.
Yep.
Is it fair to ask, do you think writing it the way they did was an oversight, or do you think it was
No, I don't think it's an oversight.
deliberate?
It was
think-
not an oversight.
I mean, it's possible. I don't think so.
But do they have to accept and honor your edits?
We reserve the right, if necessary, to seek legal recourse if there's an area of disagreement, when we believe strongly it's what we wish to have done is in the benefit of our citizenry, and they disagree.
I mean, they can write anything they want in a document, but they're asking for comments and feedback about this, so we're certainly able to give it to them.
You guys still need this, or can I stop sharing?
You can stop sharing. Yep. And that's all I have to say about this.
Okay.
Um,
So is that something you will share, Kay?
yeah, I will take that phrase and I'll send it to Mona.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, just one last thing about the Board of Selectmen. At the last meeting they had last week, Robin Hunter talked about putting together a task force about property development in town, and that would get involved in starting to think. It would be a multidisciplinary group that would think about planning and 40B and the MBTA communities law and all the impact of those on Dover. And she mentioned a number of departments, boards, and committees that would be represented on this. And though she didn't mention the Board of Health in the selectmen's meeting, I emailed her afterward and I said, "You meant to include the Board of Health, didn't you?" And she said, "Yes, I did." So she talked about planning, the Zoning Board of Appeals, Conservation Commission, Board of Health. I'm not going to remember all the groups that would be represented in this, but the goal would be, first of all, to get people educated about 40B and about the MBTA communities law, and then start to talk about what Dover can do proactively, because we want to be in a position to be proactive rather than reactive.
If they are saying, conceding that Dover is affected by the MBTA communities law, then that's a problem.
Well, we're not affected. We're an MBTA adjacent community, so we're not affected the way that a place like Needham or Newton is, but we still have some requirements of us because we're within a certain, we abut a town that has MBTA service.
Philip, could you rustle up copies of that language for the individual board members and Jason?
About the MBTA communities law?
Jason stuff, because in my first reading of that, it seemed as though Dover was excluded from any of those requirements.
I think Kay is right, though. I think if we're in a butter of one of those communities, that we still have, I don't know if it's all the conditions, but there's still certain things that you have to meet.
Let's just look at this, all of us look at this.
So anyway, there'll be more about this. Priscilla.
Priscilla, you were muted before.
Yep, sorry. Do you mean right now, grab that, or tomorrow?
Tomorrow, whenever you have a moment to.
Sorry, I was doing
just
notes.
Give everybody a copy.
Sure.
So are you typing as we're talking? That's amazing. You're muted. You're muted.
Not all, but like some.
Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible, though.
When I go back.
It's a great skill to have. All right, it's 8:30. Guess,
Yeah.
2 hours for a busy agenda is pretty
Today's the
pretty
winner.
good. Nicely done, guys.
and I'm the winner. Jason, I don't know that you could hear us, but Steve and I were betting on the time, and we were asking you what you were betting on. We didn't ask Priscilla. Next time we will, Priscilla. Steve, we need a little pool.
Motion to adjourn. And declare Kay the winner.
You're lucky, Priscilla. A year ago, this would have been a 6-hour meeting, so we've made tremendous amount of progress.
You're muted, Priscilla.
I'm so good about muting when I'm not talking. I'm forgetting to. Sorry, I would have lost the pool.
All right.
Nice
Well,
job.
All right.
Good.
Thanks,
made
guys.
it.
Nice work.
Thanks,
Have a good
everyone.
night.
Okay, take care. Bye.